And welcome to the Delving with Debug series for Super SGNT4. I want to start off here. As you can see, your two practice options are one-player practice, which we're all familiar with, and debug practice, which uses the debug menu. So I'm going to delve into a little bit of kind of a higher arching part of this, so you can kind of get an understanding of what you're looking at, how you're maneuvering. So the debug menu, to start off, you press start to bring it up, as you can see there in the top left hand corner. Continue, press start, brings you back to the game. Screen will be adjustments for how your screen looks. Don't mess with it. Memory we won't mess with. Task and G-object won't mess with. The big piece, the big meat and potatoes, is in game. So in game you have player 0 through 11, so 12 players. Most of which I've been able to ID that 0 is player 1, 1 is player 2, 2 tends to be player 3 and 4 player, and things of that nature. I haven't mapped out all of them, but 0 and 1 are the majority of what you're going to need. This display here, model, pivot, and off. Obviously you can see Naruto is appearing and disappearing. That's the display for your current model. Mess is the big piece. We'll go into that. Touch. A here gives you little red circles where your hitboxes are when they're active. D is the blue circles around Naruto, as you can see, which are body boxes, hurt boxes. And B, this is actually left over from Bloody Roar's system, and I'm not entirely sure how it specifically works in this game, but as of now it would probably be best to just ignore it. So you can turn on hitboxes and hurt boxes if you want to by having D and A, or you can turn them all off, or one or the other. Stage works just like display, model, pivot, and off. Just lets you have the screen behind you, so if you really want to look at a hitbox or a hurt box, you can do things like this to give you a really good, examining of it. Touch, this is very similar in the way of the hurt boxes and the hitboxes with the stages. It gives you some of the outlines and the breakdown and how it's designed and laid out and things like that. Thankfully, we have graphical representations of those on the stage select screen already. Gauge does what you would think it does, turns the gauge on and off. Effect, emoji, shadow, light, fog, and Hira all affect multiple different things. As you can see, shadow is their shadows below them. Light is the light feature that makes them look a little more vibrant. Fog is interesting, so I'll show you something here. So as you can see, well, there, the screen is dark, but if you turn off fog, the screen is light. This is very good for seeing hitboxes, especially on things like Shikamaru's Down X, where it's a completely black move and a dark red circle for the hitbox. It just lets you see for super moves much easier. I'm going to leave it on for now. Okay, so big meat and potatoes, mess. Game gives you some general layouts of the game itself. Haven't delved too much into the specifics of this because they're not nearly as important. Position, as you can see, adjusts and moves as it gives your X position, your Y position, your Z position, where you are currently located according to where the 0 position is. Pad is going to be your specific inputs. If up is 4, forward is 1, back is 2, down is 8, A is 20, B is 10, and then of course there's combinations. Like in this case, I'm doing B up, which is 1 and 4. And the 4000 is because I'm pressing Z, actually, which advances individual frames. You also have L and R, which are 1000 and 800 for R and then L. The 400 sitting there is actually because I'm in neutral, but I'm facing to the right. And you can see here it's now 500, so neutral facing to the left, which is an additional 100. They're all additive. And then things like that, you can go into specifics. You can see each little additional group is showing me what I've pressed at any given point in time. See 4P, It's just telling you what you've most recently pressed. That's actually something that I've used quite a bit in the coding, and I have it all documented. If you need more information, I've broken down what's what pretty straightforward. Move I haven't got much into, but as you can see, count, it's how many frames until you are in a full walk. As far as I can tell, I don't really know much about this, considering it's anytime I press my stick, in this case Y, because I'm up in the air. It varies on your movement. Again, something I haven't used much, and most of you probably won't get much out of. So attack, we don't really see much of. Combo. Those actually, if I remember correctly, 2 is you've done a follow-up. Again, haven't used it too much. Flag. This is a big one. I've documented most of the flags that I've found. So in this case, and I have it easier to see here, so AF is your action flag, so stand, or in this case float jump, stand back, stand forward dash quick, which is run, float jump attack, stand attack. That kind of tells what you are specifically doing. There are 4 that are important here, and I'm going to be able to show you, I think, 3 of them. I'll explain the 4th one. So stand, of course, is you're standing neutral. Then you have sit, and sit, anytime sit is active, you high crush. So anything that has the high flag, you can see down there in KF where it has low kick, we'll get down to that, but anything that's a high will be ducked by sit. Then you have float small. In this case, float actually means you're off the ground, and small is low crush, to my understanding. The 4th one that's important is fuse, F-U-S-E, and that is immune to highs and mids. That's used on a wake-up kick and some of the intangible reversal supers that we've seen. PF, you can't really affect normally, but as you can see, throw OK, neck turn normal, I get behind, and I got turn back normal. And that's pretty much just what is the state of your character. NF is giving me auto-dur right now, which is auto-directional toward my opponent. And this is also used with some characters. Let me see here. There. Yeah, I missed it. Okay. T down on NF means that I cannot be grabbed. It's because I'm in a type of hit stun right now. If T down on NF is active, you cannot be grabbed. T damage means you can't be hit. That's usually used on get-ups and intangibilities, or in this case, as you can see, because I'm subbing, it's T damage because I can't be hit, T down because I can't be grabbed. N2F is another specific type. Those are rarely seen. Again, I've documented them all. KF, this is where we start getting into attacks. Documented them all. I can link this as needed. POW W means it's POW weak, and that changes the sound effect, the base block stun, and hit stun, which can also be modified by other effects. We'll see when we get into attack. But also high, so it's coded as a high, and anything with sit will crush the move, and it's a punch because it's a punch. Then of course we have things like, forward B, which the reach flag, to my understanding, is the hitbox is essentially not entirely on the person, and Tata right there is small bounce. And in this case, you can see it's a high, small bounce, and I'm going to turn the hitboxes on. That's the first frame. Second frame, it becomes a middle, and the throw flag is added, and the throw flag makes something unsubbable until the opponent comes to a point where their sub is reset, which with a bounce, it's actually when they bounce on the ground. Some of the others is standing up or substituting or things like that. That's how untackables were made, because I also modified the being bounced action state of the opponent. K2F is another attack type. It's special. Things like super armor or feet trapped or dry as puddle use K2F. And then all the others are some in particular states. Like, if I remember correctly, let me see here. I should probably turn the opponent on. Okay. Yeah, I don't see it. EF, take on right there. That means that he can now sub again. And that's kind of what that means. You can see some of the AF flags. Damage, down U, and U. Whenever damage is on for AF, you can substitute. That's what that means. The flag I was looking for, actually I should get it right here. Yeah, there it is. In DF, you see at the very end B drive. That stands for Beast Drive from the Bloody Roar engine, and that essentially just means, you know, your Beast gauge, your Chakra gauge is using meter, it's using super, and they can't sub at that point. So if you see B Drive on their active, it means they cannot sub at that point in time. That'll be active on supers and on the throw adjustment I did and some things like that. And then, of course, you know, it goes into the super itself. It goes through the whole thing. And the flags don't really change during these because there's nothing to change. They're in a pretty consistent, steady state. So that's the basis of flags. Again, I have them all documented as well as I can, and I can get that to anyone who has an interest. Act is action. So you see here it's changing 3 at the top. 5, 6, 16, 1, 3, 1, 4, 1D, I think is landing. Yep. So that's the action state that you are in, which is very useful for anything you do. Get up, wake up. All attacks have action states. It's alpha 0 for a 5B. And that's different with attacks too. The action states are used because at the end of every move, you are then transferred to an action state. Most of the time, it's action state 1, as you can see, which is standing at neutral. But there's also action state 14. I want to say it's something else. Oh, it uses a pointer for air states, but 14 is your air state. So it will change your action state at the end of whatever animation or action you are in, which allows you to change. So for example, 4B is A1, he lands, he's still in it right now, and when it ends, see it goes to 001, which he can then move. So that's a action state change. One of the other key components that's going to be useful for looking at is attack. As you can see here, 5B is 0, up B is 42, down B is 3. The attack functions are what the game uses primarily for inputs and for strings when we're creating strings. But if you're going into a lab, the points that are key to remember, you'll see it right down here at the bottom because I just did down B. POW is 00 delta, and that's hexadecimal. POW is the amount of damage the attack does, and delta is 13, so down B does 13. Ang is 4,000, that's how much lift the move has. So this combines with its attack flag, which the attack flag for this is Koro, K-O-R-O, which is sweep. And Koro is a very low lifting lift type that cannot be Y canceled, hence a sweep. But like up B, so it's 7,000, and its attack type is down, which is the spinning launcher. Sends much higher, can't be looped twice in a row. Going back to down B. DMG, damage, OOD. So what damage is it's what relates with your strength of your attack, weak, medium, or strong, to determine hit stun and block stun. If it sweeps, hit stun doesn't matter. Block stun does. And for whatever odd reason, since they're all OD across the board, it has more stun actually than if I was to have it DED, for example, just because of the way it works. It's a base value. That is extremely common. The only time from a vanilla perspective that was different is... Oh yeah, it's first jab. That's right. As you can see, it's D15, which was my change because it was D14 and then 15. And that's just so first jab has a little longer stun and actually goes. And then GRD is guard, so it's how much damage it does in the guard. The only other piece that's important, let me see if I can get a good one here. There we go. First jab. Second jab, sorry. There. DIR to the left of POW, it says 1000. So DIR is the direction that the move hits you in. If it's 8000, it turns you around completely. And then, of course, there's 0 to 8000 and FFFF down to 8000 on opposite sides. It's which direction you go, which rotation. If it's 3300, I think, therefore Charlie Charlie 00, or more, or therefore less if you're Charlie Charlie, it will turn around a back turn. So Sasuke's 4B, I think, has 3400 by default. And I built that into a few moves. So that's going to be something that's key looking at. The DIR will affect how the opponent's going to go. And when working with those, I tried to make them in a way that they made sense for the way the move was hitting, and also to make the move hit a little better. Things like Zabuza's down X, for example. I put more DIR on each hit so that it spins you more around him and less away from him. Okay, life. I'm going to turn this on for second player because it's easier to see. So, let's get that. Okay, the bottom one is second player. You can see here, remain 0, total 0. That's the amount of damage you'll have taken. Max 220 is his health. Damage 0, that's how much he's currently taking. Last is the last attack. Beast is 0. 15360 is a full super meter. That is how much he currently has. Guard 1760 out of 1760. That's a full guard for Naruto. So, for example, in this case, you can see the last hit he took, which was the clone here, was 8 damage. The total from the combo was 46, was the entirety that he took. And the beast that he gained was 3,672, just short of a quarter bar. And that's something you can look at mathematically or things of that nature. But that's the general breakdown of that. Yeah, dang. Choose the wrong character. Okay. Hit, I don't really go into too much. But as you can see, it turns to 0 when there is an active hitbox. So you will see 0, 0, 0, 1. Anytime it's an active hitbox, it goes to 0. And you'll see the hit number all the way at the end keeps advancing because that's my combo counter. That's the big piece there. CPU, that's something we don't use, and the one at the bottom of game here is actually some little bars that go on the bottom if you're using debug mode 2, as I call it, which also has camera options. So this is debug 0, which is the most useful for the lab. MOT is moat. So you can see here we got forward jump and fall, jump, fall, jump, double jump, fall, walk, walk, down B, up B. The action number, which is on the second row, second thing over, is the animation number for whatever you are doing. The other key number is the third row on the left, right below flag. You can see here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as I'm going through. That is the duration of 5B. And then if you go up to the first row at Moat F, right next to that to its right is REV. That now changed to end. And what end means is that is the last frame of 5B. So frame 44. If I was to press B on this frame, he would do second jab because of the way in which his 2 jabs are set up. But if I wait one more frame, now he's back to neutral. Press B, and he does first jab again. This is also very useful because, say, 43, for example, I'm pressing A and B right now and going over, and it automatically will do the first jab for me because that's a 3-frame buffer, I think I remember. But this is really good for finding you get into a point with, say, block stun, for example. And we can look at this. Let me bring up the other guy. Okay, so you can see player 1 is moving. Player 2 is at frame 35. Frame 44 is the end. So, 5B from Naruto, done all by itself, is essentially -10, -11 on block. And that allows you to find gaps and windows, mostly for whiff punishes, because obviously if they hit you, unless it's the end of a string, they can do something else. Attack 2, this is a very interesting key little piece here. Kind of gives it to you all broken down. So in this case, the very first one, 17, is the number of frames until a hitbox appears. 6 is the duration of the hitbox. 29 is the frames after the hitbox disappears until the move ends. POW is 12, which is 12 damage. That's actually not hex for any of those. That's straight decimal numbers. And at the very end, you see M and D. That means it is, I can't remember if it's medium power or a mid. That was a mid. That's what that is. It's a mid, and D means down, which is the spinning knockdown type. There's a few of those, so like this is a high, ta-ta, or bounce. This is a low, and K for Koro. That is medium, G for guard, so it will lift on their guard. And the U is Yuki, which is the third type of lift. There's Koro, which is the lowest, can't be Y canceled. Yuki, which is your standard. And down, which is the really high one that spins. So those are your points there. Then, of course, there's, you can see here at the very end, well, the fourth one down, the kick, which is HY. Y is Yoro, which is stagger. And then you have the very last one, which MG, so medium, guard, and B for Batowski, or butt, B-U-T-T, which is flying screen. So there's a lot of little key pieces in there. Interestingly enough, it doesn't have one for SP Tata, Spatata, which is large bounce, for whatever reason. But that is your general breakdown for how Attack 2 works. MXT I don't really use, and check is, it's got your mode at the top, it's got your attack, it's got your flags, so it's kind of an all-in-one for everything we've just talked about. So you can look at specific frames, you can look at little pieces there. Oh yeah, I just remembered, I saw it pop up. KF right there at the very end, attack can is super cancel. That's what it means. Just a place to look for super cancels. So that is the general breakdown for how Debug works. I'll go more in depth into some of the features in later episodes, but hopefully this gives you an overall understanding to at least get you started.